Hey everybody, we're back with another Christmas spoiler review. And today I will be covering Ron Howard's How the Grinch Stole Christmas movie. Last year I reviewed the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch animated movie. So you can check that out on my on the channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. Links are in the description. And by the way, please leave a like and hit the notification bell if you like, these spoiler reviews as well as my video game walkthroughs that I do on the channel as well. Please share this among your friends. Yeah, I said many a times how much I am a huge fan of Jim Carrey. Ever since I was a kid and grew up in the '90s, I had an admiration for Jim Carrey. He's one of those kind of actors I really want to meet one day because he's so hilarious. He's just like a big kid, and no joke. I I know it's probably drove my family crazy when I was a young kid, but I mimicked a lot of his films as a kid. Especially Ace Ventura and The Mask. Top two. Uh, uh, that I mimicked a lot because it was like so funny, man. And it's like, the first time I was introduced to Jim Carrey was in Living Color TV show. Uh, and he was just like a phenomenal part of the show, and like his impressions, his the way he controls his face is so comedic and just unreal. It's just like the way he just flawlessly does it. It's kind of like how Tara Strong can just with such flawlessness just go into these voices and just like it just like blows your mind, and he can do that kind of thing with his face, and it is just so funny. Like like go from like Clint Eastwood to like Grinch kind of thing. It's just like it's just like his skills is like on unreal. So of course I was ecstatic as a kid, and it's like Jim Carrey as the Grinch because I love the short Grinch cartoon because probably like out of all the Dr. Seuss's, because the only I think like there's only three animated movies, like animated shorts of no, that's it's like at least like a handful. But the ones that kind of stuck out was the Grinch because that played probably a lot more than the others, mostly because it was Christmas theme. Then you got the Cat in the Hat. Then it was the Sneetches. Uh, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure there was a green eggs and ham one because I really like green eggs and ham. I think like personally wise, I know there's people who love the Cat in the Hat. I say the Grinch was number one, and then green eggs and the ham was like the second one that I thoroughly enjoy. As a matter of fact, because there's been a handful of Dr. Seuss movies, but only two that come to mind that was live action. It was this and the Cat in the Hat, and I think the Cat in the Hat is probably by far the worst one. The others have their issues, but Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat was just, somebody somewhere in this production dropped the ball so hard. It was like I don't know what anybody was thinking. Uh, this has its issues, which I'll get into, but not as much as the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat. I think I watched that Mike Myers Cat in the Hat at least one time when it was on cable TV, and it was like I wasn't feeling it at all. I don't think anybody like. I think a lot more people hate it even more than I do. Like I just like it's like it's not for me. Never will see it again. But people just like really loved it, and I think it's mostly because they have like a reverence for the Cat in the Hat book, or even the animated short. which kind of supposed to like correct me if I'm wrong, but Cat in the Hat is supposed to be teaching you about having just a little bit of chaos in your life is not the end of the world. It's probably more often than not good for you, because just like living in a world with just like constant order and constant rules without shaking things up just a little bit, just like a healthy amount, not like nothing too crazy like the Joker. I'm just like just a little healthy amount, you know, can add something to your life. Um. Anyway, you already if you read the book or even watched the animated short, you already know the story of the Grinch. They already currently, I'm not sure if it's the same people who did that whole Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey horror film, but they supposed to be somebody is supposed to be making a horror theme version, horror parody of the Grinch called The Mean One, and it's like just like with like a horror film Santa Claus thing, I think it's kind of gratuitous and like, yeah, I can't think of any other word for it, but it's just like, it's like, do you need to make a, I mean, granted, it's like, it hasn't been done before with, unlike Santa Claus, where like ever since like, what, like early 90s, there's been like, at least a handful of, not like with Violent Night, a movie I reviewed just the other day, which check out the review, by the way, of my thoughts on that. I further expand on this, but it's just unlike with Santa Claus, who had like a handful of movies where he's just on like a murder spree, just for gratuitous violence. This one, the mean one, I guess it has been done before, but it's just like same thing with Winnie the Pooh. I guess like you haven't done something like that before, so you can't really say like it's nothing like unique. But it's like I don't know. I don't know. I figured in my mind, it's like, why? Like, But anyway, I definitely won't see it. Like, horror films is not my jam anyway. I'm not a horror person. And I know people say, like, people who love horror films are, like, the most nicest people you ever meet. And I don't dispute that. It's just horror has never been my bag. I don't like to pay people to scare me. And it's like, I see my fair share of horror films. As I mentioned many times before, I think Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is probably like my favorite horror film that I've watched. But other than that, maybe like like the Scream films, probably the only others that I actually would watch. But beyond that, nah. Anyway, this movie stars Jim Carrey as the Grinch. Well, I always thought like, oh, this is like a brilliant casting. Like, why would you not cast Jim Carrey? But I give the movie credit. It's like the costume is great, the makeup is great, and despite the difficulty, Jim Carrey managed to act and through all that, and the way he contorted his face is so perfect for the Grinch. You don't have to do any kind of CG work to make his smile creepy and all the other stuff. He can just do that on his own and it works. Second here. You got Taylor Momsen, who played Cindy Lou Who, and get this, I have not even seen this one coming. She's retired from acting, but she is a model slash uh uh rock star, because she is a member of this band called the Pretty Reckless. So yeah, I mean, like, you, you expect Cindy Lou Who to turn out to be a rock star? I mean, she been in other stuff after uh, the Grinch film, uh, and she was on the Gossip Girl 2007 to 2012 as Jenny Humphrey. Uh, but yeah, currently right now she's front woman of the rock band Pretty Reckless. So yeah, I'm not much like a huge like rock fan. I heard my fair share, but I thought it was pretty dope. She's like a rock star. You didn't think this small tiny little tot will grow up to be this rock star. Even though she has a singing moment here, I don't care for it in here. But I imagine she's a whole lot better currently right now. You got Jeffrey Tamor as Mayor Augustus Mayhew, Christine Baranski as Martha May Huvier, Bill Irwin as Louis Luhu, Molly Shannon as his wife Betty Luhu, and the movie's narrated by Anthony Hopkins. And so the movie opens, you get a close up on this one snowflake. If you ever watched Horton Hears a Who, which another Jim Carrey Dr. Seuss film that I think is still better than the Cat in the Hat by a long shot. Which, by the way, now speaking on it, I think it's probably best if you make it just like the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch. I think it's best to keep these Dr. Seuss related films strictly animated. And I think that's the only way it works. Live action does not work. It can't make it fit. Despite yeah, Mike Myers is hilarious, and sure he has his little stale moments, and projects, but by and large, we know he can be funny and a great actor, and. And Jim Carrey, same thing. He is hilarious, and he can give you, great performances. But their acting chops, you know, probably isn't enough to make certain materials work. It's like not every actor is a miracle worker. So you get this close up on this one little snowflake that I mentioned Horton Hears a Who because he talks to a village full of Who's on this flower thing or I forgot what it was. I don't think it's a flower, but I think it was like one of those uh little cotton things that pollen things that come down the air or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen Horton as a Who, but you know what I'm talking about. And like somehow these Who's live on these little things. But anyway, I'm thinking to myself, okay, if they live inside this weird, I might be thinking, I'm clearly thinking too much far into this. But it's like you live on a snowflake that eventually is going to fall on the ground and eventually is going to melt. So, or everybody's going to die in a flood or something because you have this whole entire snowy village and this mountaintop thing. And it's like, okay, you got these people living on this thing. Okay, all these snowflakes got, who villages, uh, and they're all in the midst of falling to the ground. They're not privy to that. And it's like, okay, it's like are they just got like a short lifespan or what's that all about? Anyway, you meet these Who's, which by the way, the Grinch looks great. Jim Carrey's makeup and everything looks great with him. But with these Who's, aside from Cindy Lou, who they didn't bother to like do much with because she's a cute little girl, so you can just use that and stick with that. So beyond her, these Who's, I do not care for the makeup. They look like little mice with the noses and everything like that. And it's like I do not like it. It's ugly. Speaking of ugly, the look of Whoville is ugly, and it's kind of like, nobody's bothered to switch on the lights because it kind of like it's always in a perpetual state of late afternoon getting to the evening, because you barely get like a nice sunlight to see some color. Everything seems muted. And it's kind of like the way like BVS was, where it's like almost things are just almost muted colors, and it's like it's like I compared when I mentioned that about when I brought that up when I was reviewing the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch, how, because I think like the writers and directors behind that realize, how could you not realize the one of the glaring issues with Ron Howard's Grinch was everything seems so dismal in appearance, and so the snow in the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch was like very crisp. Everything seems like crisp, cool winter, and they animated that perfectly. Like you feel like, oh, you're in crisp, cool winter weather, and the colors are vibrant. So that's another thing that they course correct. You want to see these colors pop, especially whether it's at night or during the day. The Christmas colors contrasting to the whiteness of the snow complement each other, and it just makes you just more drawn in, and you don't feel drawn in here. It looks like nobody bothered to clean up. You got like ornaments that have been left in the trash for a month or two, and then you decide to pull them out of the trash and display them like they're brand new, and that's how it kind of feels like. You rarely get some color to this. I don't like that. So you see all these who's starting to like do all their Christmas shopping, all the hustle and bustle, get everything decorated, all these like 99% off for this and that and the other, and they all running like crazy like it's a Black Friday sale. And so then you pan towards the mountain of Mount Crumpet, where you meet Max and the Grinch. And I'm also glad they actually got an actual dog to play Max, and no CGI BS. Although there's moments of CGI-ness added to the dogs for, adding to the comedic effect. That's why I say that, I think these movies benefit from just making a straight up animated film, so you don't have to spend so much on CGI where you don't have to. If you want to do something cartoonish, might as well make it a cartoon, or just leave the whole entire thing alone, because the original cartoon was already good as it is, and it is short, sweet, to the point, and got the point across about the Grinch, just kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge, just becoming more involved. Let open up your heart to people. Don't be such a grump during these holidays. Although that being said, in an animated cartoon, the Who's were kind of being obnoxious, but not to the point where the Grinch had to go around and thinking it's so invasive on his side of things that he decides to take their Christmas away. But I think in Ron Howard's film, he wants, I guess, take that moment and highlight the fact that, oh, these Who's are so obnoxious because they only care about the materialistic, capitalistic part of Christmas. And like, I don't think that was lost on anybody. Like, somewhere along the lines, the Who's, got too wrapped up in the commercialism of the holiday. And that's where seeing the Lou Who that you meet start asking all these little questions to people, or especially our parents, about how, like, everybody's like all, as she put it, kerbobbled, just running back and forth all over town trying to get the best things or the right things for presents and the right decorations, all the other stuff that you probably going to throwing out within a month, uh, or returning or exchanging within with if not weeks to a month's time, without just appreciating the holiday and who you're spending it with. So the Grinch decides to come down to Whoville, which, by the way, is another glaring issue everybody likes to point out, which I tend to agree, because I really did like the animated Grinch short when I was a little kid, because that played on reruns a lot when I was on cable TV when I was a little kid. And it's like the Grinch would not waste his time, and that's another issue some people had about the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch. The Grinch, the only time the Grinch came down was to steal people's presents. Prior to that, he does not want to involve himself or be surrounded by these Who's. In both films, he comes down at least a couple of times. In the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch, he he comes down at least once there, but he comes down to do some shopping. Well, no, it is twice, because in the movie he comes down to do some shopping because he kind of stress ate everything before the holidays even started going underway, because he knew that, okay, there's gonna be a whole bunch of hustle bustle. I need to like stock up because I do not want to come down during this whole festivities. I don't want any reason. So he started stress eating because he's very lonely despite having Max. He's still kind of lonely. He doesn't want to show that or express that, but he like that's what is clearly displayed. But I kind of like, I mentioned it in that movie. I kind of like the way that Grinch displayed his meanness to people, like, mocking little, Cindy Lou about, like, mailing her list of demands to Santa, as he put it. And then he's doing something that seems about to be doing something nice, but then he just like ends like he's on somebody was some who kid was building like a snowman, and the carrot nose falls off, and he's picking it up and it looks like he's about to place it back on there, and he has a smile on his face, and then he just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and knocks the entire head off. And then in the grocery store, and I admit I kind of want to do this, but it'd be effed up to do it, but it's just so trolly, but I kind of want to do this one day to somebody. But it just, some old Who lady, was reaching for like a jar of jelly from a shelf, and she asked him, the Grinch, for the help to reach it, and he just takes it and put it even higher, and then because he's just like, like F these people. So I kind of like that. And here in this movie, he does mischievous things, but it's like I get it. I get a couple of chuckles here and there, but it didn't give that same sense of laughter out of me. It's like very bottom of the barrel type of kind of comedy mischief, where he comes down wearing this clearly fake mask. I'm not sure why everybody's being fooled by it. And he saw a bike in half, and he gives it to a bunch of kids to go run with it. And then he starts like fooling around with people's mail at the post office, switching it all around. And I mean, I guess that one was a little bit funny because like he just gives random people just other people's mails, and sending just a bunch of random people letters for jury duty, and that kind of is like funny because that'd be like a total troll move and really messed up. There he runs into Cindy Lou, who was there because her father is works for the post office, and he inadvertently is well, not inadvertently, he purposely kind of scared her, and she ends up toppling into this a mechanism that is supposed to sort all these gift packages and go through this machine to seems like it was about to crush these things, but try to compact them to fit in certain spots. Thanks to Max encouraging, he gets the Grinch to save her life, which you know she appreciates because despite the stories people are telling her about like this Grinch character and how like he's just like a bad dude. He doesn't like Christmas, that kind of thing. And if he's such a bad dude, he wouldn't have saved my life. Uh, so uh, the next day, the mayor sets up. Well, before I get to that, you get to see like after his little day of mischief, he goes back to his home, and he is like a vast junkyard almost, and he just lives there with Max. And this is where I kind of like the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch's lair better because it doesn't seem like just like a trash pile he stays in. And I get it, you're trying to make him, just like a kind of like a disgusting creature. He's biting into like a onion like as an apple and using it to like deodorant to freshen his armpits kind of thing. But in Benedict Cumberbatch's Grinch, he looks like he grooms himself and keep himself like very tidy and and put together. And there's a lot of mechanisms there are very Dr. Seuss kind of like work. It look like this is straight up like Dr. Seuss type of inventions and gizmos and stuff like that. And his teeth are very pearly white in that, while in this it seems like they're leaning towards this kind of like a disgusting kind of guy that doesn't keep himself clean on any level. Um, so uh, dang, I forgot to wear this while I was doing this review. Next, because I'm about to mention about like the funniest part. This is funny moments in this film, but one of which that always gets a laugh for part of a lot of people is the him checking his phone messages. Uh, and I wanted to I could wear it right now because I'm next Saturday I'm going to this Christmas ugly sweater bar crawl in downtown Chicago, so I won't be like streaming that day. But I got myself like an ugly Christmas sweater. Some people say it's not that ugly, but I just want to show you because it's the Grinch, and it's not just Jim Carrey's Grinch. Well, it's not Jim Carrey Grinch at all. It's kind of like a combination of the original cartoon and the Benedict Cumberbatch one. You got the original cartoon, and on the back, you got the Benedict Cumberbatch one. Well, yeah, but there is the Jim Carrey version because you got the lines here from the film. So a nice little because despite people's complaints about Jim Carrey's Grinch, and it becomes like a household, or at least like a guilty pleasure kind of movie inadvertently. It become like a unironic, or depending on your point of view, ironic Christmas classic. So you got, let me switch this up. Like, yeah. So you got, sorry, trying to make sure it's, okay, here you go. 4 o'clock, wallow in self pity. 4:30, stare into the abyss. 5 o'clock, solve world hunger, tell no one. 5:30, jazzercise. 6:30, dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. And 7, wrestle with my self-loathing. I'm booked. I wanted to wear this before I started streaming. I completely spaced, but you know what? I'm gonna wear it right now. It's a little warm right now because of the lights and everything like that, but because I think I'm gonna have this for every year for Christmas. Because this is my first time wearing or getting myself an ugly Christmas sweater. I used to make fun of people like that as a kid, but now it's like, it's kind of fun. It's kind of like Hallmark Christmas movies. It's stupid, but it's charm to it. Okay. There you go. My day. Yeah, so I'm gonna have this on for a while, at least until the I wrapped up the review. But uh where was I? Yeah, he's going over his messages, and that part is really really funny, where he's just like, the outgoing, just him, just like, if you utter a single word, I'll hunt you down and cut you like a fish. Yeah, you like the fax machine, press the star key. And that part is really funny, especially with his face is listening and just oh, this is, yeah, that makes sense. Uh, uh, but then you realize, he's, and then like him just basically talking to himself. It's like, shouting out at his own echo. Uh, how are you? How are you? I asked you first. I asked you first. Oh, that's really what you're saying. Exactly what I say. Oh, that's really what you're saying. Exactly what I say. I'm an idiot. You're an idiot. And it's very, Looney Tune, Chuck Jones type of cartoon kind of comedy. It's just like, God, that's played right. That's still pretty dang funny. So then he come to realize, like, because he's eating like bottle glass shards. I was like, and he just says to himself, like, am I just eating because I'm bored? And it's like, you can't help but then you get this little moment where I give the movie credit for this. I mean, well, the Benedict Cumberbatch movie kind of expressed this a bit too, that the Grinch is lonely. He just doesn't know how to express that because he's stuck in his hatred for this holiday. Because we'll dive into why he hates the holiday so much, because I guess that part has never been expanded upon until we got this film. Because he just, in the cartoon, he just hates it because the Who's are just, I guess, obnoxious, but I guess it's not enough to warrant, like, that level of hatred. But we'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, he just gotten so alone. He's depressed. He's stress eating, or just eating because he's bored. He needs something to do, and he's talking to himself. It's like, I'm shocked that he even has a dog in any of these versions, despite his like hatred of just any type of companionship. But I think he just has a dog because he just, we can just freely boss something around, but at the same time has at least lord over something, or has something that needs him for something, and supposed to love him unconditionally. But in turn, he just has at least something of a friendship, so he doesn't feel completely alone, to avoid him probably hanging himself. which by the way is kind of brings harkens to the whole notion of, well, I don't even know what you call it, like a notion, but it's kind of a sad fact that like the suicide rates, especially when it comes to men, uh, uh, increase around the holidays. Which, by the way, you should, if you're feeling that kind of way, I encourage you to. Uh, uh, there's a hotline. I'm blanking on it. It's so simple. I can't believe I'm blanking on it. They call when you're like, you know, in a suicide mood or depression mood. Like, of course, you can call dial 911, but they'll also defer you to the specific number to help you if you're feeling that way. And it's a good idea for you guys to seek out, like a good therapist, or at least go to a hospital to speak with somebody if you're feeling some type of way, and they can get the kind of help that you need. Uh, that'd be like a good thing. And, just nice little PSA for you guys. Anyway, then the next day, Cindy Lou starts to ask around about to people who would have known the Grinch, back in the day. Uh, and he speaks to the two uh, mothers who raised him, and uh, they discover him on their doorstep. Well, technically not the doorstep. The wind kind of kicked up and started landing on their doorstep because nobody knows who his real parents are, and like he seems like kind of like Thanos. He's like a deviant, but even though he's like an eternal, he's kind of like a Who, but it's like a deviant Who, if that makes any sense. And the wind kicked up, and he lives on this like humbercellas. It's kind of like an umbrella carrying the baby basket. And the wind kicked up, and instead of landing on their doorstep, he landed in their bushes, staring into the window, crying as these ladies are having like a Christmas party. And and of course, it's kind of play on the whole baby and stork situation. Clearly these who's bang. Uh, uh, with all these sexual innuendos that happen in this thing. Uh, so they raised the kid, and as while in middle school, he has this crush on Martha May Huvier, who happens to be Cindy Lou's next door neighbor, who has this kind of rivalry with Cindy Lou's mom, played by Molly Sandon, who constantly outshines uh, Cindy's mom with all these life displays that she wins every year in the contest. Mostly because the mayor, who as a child was the Grinch's bully, has like a thing for her that even after all this time was never reciprocated. Uh, uh, Cindy finds out that yeah, clearly this girl had like a thing for the Grinch, but then uh, 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 Mayhu, out of jealousy, mocks this kid. Says like because it's like the hairs on him, it's kind of like he has like a beard, and so the teacher instructs the students to uh, make a gift for a classmate. So the Grinch goes home and gathers all these materials. This kind of shows his kind of like engineering ingenuity, because in his lair has all these mechanisms and gizmos, so he has some kind of knack for science and engineering. So, I don't think anybody would kind of like really point that out in neither one of these films, because you get to see that bit in the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch as well. So he makes a it's kind of like like a Christmas angel topper out of, like, he made that with a box of scraps. He made that in a cave with a box of scraps. Yeah, basically, he made this, topper out of a box of scraps. But it actually comes up pretty doggone nicely. He even like welded it, not like a traditional welding, but actually used some kind of flame to like, melt the metal and stuff like that to put everything together. But then, I mean, like, it's hard to not relate to a kid where he's constantly being bullied by a certain thing that he has not necessarily any control over. Because we've all been there, one shape or another. So he decides to take this razor and shave off the hair off his face, and of course it leaves like shaving nicks and everything like that. And then of course he gets teased mercilessly by all the kids except Martha May. Even the teacher starts chuckling at this kid, and of course the kid loses it, understandably, and starts trashing the entire classroom, runs away, and decides to live on Mount Crumpet henceforth. So then this is like this kind of contest that the Who's have called the Holiday Cheermeister, where a member of society gets elected as the cheermeister to participate in these, at least lead these kind of activities, and get like an award and acknowledgement and stuff like that. And Cindy Lou decides to nominate the Grinch, and too much the mayor's dismay, all the others decide, like, yeah, why not give it to the Grinch. And it's showing that like the Who's are not like, despite the rumors they spread about the Grinch, they doesn't seem like they have any ill will to this guy, because he by and large keep to himself. So, and this is another thing, like, why is there, Cindy's parents not looking after this freaking kid? Because she just goes places without any type of supervision. So she goes all the way up to Mount Crumpet and talks with the Grinch, even though he is completely not interested in involving himself until she brings up Martha May. So he sends her back down, and he's just like, because clearly he wants to go, he wants to participate, but he's still not like willing to admit that, like, oh, this might actually be fun and they want me around. But he's playing coy with himself. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I wear. Oh, I'm not going. It was like, and then of course the dog sends him through this trap door so he can just get there, because he's procrastinating, because clearly he wants to go. So he goes down there, and it was a funny little joke about, like, oh, the child mentioned something about like a check. Oh, there's no check. Are you sure? I'm pretty sure somebody mentioned about a check. There is no check, and that part still gets a bit of a laugh out of me. This is back and forth over a check that doesn't exist. So just try to out of spite put the Grinch through the ringer. The mayor puts him through all these these crazy activities, and he's like the fudge judge. He's like tasting out everybody's homemade fudge and all their homemade puddings, and they just shoving it in his doggone mouth, like this mine. Oh, this homemade too. Like, oh yeah. It's like, oh, is that all you got? Is that all you got? And they shoving it in his mouth, like, that's all you got? It's like, okay, that was a little funny. It's like, I admit, that still kind of got a laugh out of me. It's just like just Jim Carrey's reaction to this. It's like that probably like sells this. So they do this conga line around the Christmas tree. Of course, Martha May sees him, and she's got a little hot under her nether reasons for this guy, and don't necessarily know why. No kink shaming, but it's like I guess she has like a furry kind of fixation. I don't know. Uh, uh, so you know, then you doing this little race, sack race thing, I think it's called, and and which he wins, and then like they like raising him up in a crowd as like yes number one, like I'm number one, I number one. He points to this little kid in the middle of the street. It's like I beat you, ha 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 ha. And it's like this part is from part of my favorite part in the entire film. It's just like him just enjoying this this party where he just leading it, and it's like he's participating. He's getting like some joy out of it because he's spent so much time just being alone, and it's like a slice of a moment of finally appreciating what like Christmas is about, just like the merriment and like enjoyment around others. And you forget about the whole concept of the whole materialistic part of it, because this is what it is all about. Just the merriment of enjoying each other's company, and like drinking and eating, and just chewing the fat with like your neighbor. But then of course the mayor just want to be a piece of shit and presented him with this gift, and it turns out to be a shaving razor, which triggers him. Clearly, is a word that that we didn't have back then when this happened. I'm pretty sure it was, but not used so often as it has been the past few years. But it's obviously triggered something in him back to his childhood, and what he did, because he was bullied and mocked. So he decides, okay, oh, this is all you guys care about. All the, excuse me, all these toys and all these materialistic stuff, and you're just going to dumping eventually in the trash. This whole Christmas season is stupid. And then he starts to just wreck everything, burn down their massive Christmas tree like they stole it from the Rockefeller Center. But of course, they have a spare, just like in the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch. They got like some kind of spare, and all this destruction. And of course, they're obviously most of them are in a kind of like dire straits, because like, oh wow, he just kind of wrecked this entire festival. And of course, then the Grinch on his way back home comes up with the idea. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna take all their stuff, ruin their Christmas because they ruined my Christmas, so I'm gonna pay them back for that. And so, of course, you get the whole situation. You dress up like Santa. You got Max, as a little reindeer, and goes down there, and what's another thing? He spots Santa Claus before he goes down there, and I'm thinking like, you're living on a snowflake. How Santa? Do they have like a Who version of Santa down there? I was like, it seems like this snowflake only has this one village. There's no whole entire world here. Like I said, I'm thinking too much into it, but it's just like that kind of like threw me like, okay, how does that work? Anyway, he goes down there. Of course, the first house he goes to is the Lou's house, and she asks about like, why are you sending presents? Oh, I'm Santa. I'm taking up to my North Pole headquarters to fix it up, and I'll bring it right back down. Which, like a kid, that age would be like, okay, how you will do all that while you're supposed to be delivering presents? You only got that one night, and you got to go all the way back to fix up my tree. Like, sometimes kids are dumb. Anyway, St. Lou seems like, kind of girl who, and at least in this version, seems even more so than even the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch version of Cindy Lou Who. This one seems a little bit more, got a little better head on her shoulders, but not enough to the point where she should have been a little bit more like asking follow-up questions. But, whatever. So the Grinch sends her up on her way, even though she said like, don't forget about the Grinch. Like he needs like a good Christmas too. Uh, but that doesn't really sway the Grinch from his mission. So he decided to like start robbing people's house to house to house. Uh, I think it's a little bit more creative and fun uh, in the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch, the way he steals the Who's presence. But I think he had the added benefit of being an actual animated cartoon compared to the live action, where you're kind of limited to what you can do, despite the CG or whatever. And then of course you get like him going to Mary's house and taking Max's butt and playing on the Mary's face, thinking he's, in his dream, thinking he's kissing Martha May, and it's like, yeah, we got this kind of comedy here too. So, not a fan of it. Depending on how you play, it can work in a funny way, but by and large, it's never funny. At least 9 times out of 10, it's never funny. You get a rare occasion, maybe because you haven't seen it in such a long time, or the way like it's written can be played funny depending on who the writer is. But anyway, he decides to get all this stuff, takes it up to on the top of Mount Crumpet to come push it off, but not before he hears the cries from the Who's when they wake up and find all that stuff gone. Of course, the mayor blows up on Sina Lou Who, but the father stands up for her and says, like, if she's not proud, I am. I don't need anything for Christmas except what I got right here, my family. And this starts the whole Who Christmas Carol thing they do from the animated short, which incentivizes the Grinch to understand that Christmas means a little bit more. Then his heart grows 3 times bigger. But that part seems super overly dramatic and could have been played a little bit more subtly than that. But I don't think the director really gave that much restraint or direction for Jim Carrey to work with. He just, he's Jim Carrey. He can make this work. That's how I at least personally feel. Even though, like, yeah, Jim Carrey can usually make things work, but you got to give him some level of direction or some level of restraint in certain key areas. This could have been played a little bit more subtly, just to hammer home psychologically and emotionally why he's starting to, come to this conclusion and feel feelings for the first time for, outside of himself. The person's about to fall over. Sing Lou is there, and he, has his strength 3 times bigger, 10 times better, whatever. He saves all the person's presents and brings it back. He apologizes, and the Who's forgive him. And that's when, of course, the mayor gets comeuppance and everything like that. But I don't think, just like in the animated short and the Benedict Cumberbatch CGI animated Grinch movie, there's no added antagonist. The Grinch is your antagonist / protagonist. I put it that way because he started off as an antagonist until he makes his redemption arc. He goes through his redemption arc. That's all you need. You don't need no added threat for the Grinch to challenge, or the Who's to like stand up for against or whatever like that. I don't think that was needed. So they decided to celebrate Christmas in the Grinch's home as he carves the roast feast or the roast beast or whatever. And the movie ends. Like I said, it's one of those movies I kind of regret having, because I had this on like a DVD as a kid. I don't know if we still have it, but always wanted like family members to watch it with me. Hardly, not that many liked it. It kind of makes me feel bad. It's kind of like with the sequel to Jim Carrey's The Mask, who Jimmy Kennedy took on the lead role in. I kind of regret bringing my cousin to see that movie because she wanted to go see like the Hitch movie that came out that exact same day, I think, or at least that week. And of course, like because I want to see it. I want to bring somebody. I want to bring her. She volunteered to come with me. Um, and my cousin, like I should have just listened to my cousin. Went to see the Hitch film because I reviewed Hitch for February this year, uh, as part of like the Valentine's Day slash Black History Month kind of movie review for that month. And as I mentioned in that review how like I probably should have just gone to see that movie in the theaters with her because like uh, the Mask sequel was atrocious. Uh, the makeup was atrocious. The comedy was like terrible. But it's like I don't know. I didn't have a headspace on understanding how like certain movies. It's like just by the trailer you should be able to understand what you're in for or what you. But I just wanted to give it a chance. Anyway, uh, but I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway, you know, this. Oh yeah, that I was going with it. I regret to like I felt bad. I wouldn't say I regret, but I felt bad to just not making, but suggesting this movie was good enough for it to be a watch. I think it's depending on your taste. I cut it a bit of slack because it was Jim Carrey and it still had little funny moments here and there. But I think as far as Grinch films, I think it's like kind of. I'm not gonna watch like the mean one horror film. I think that'll probably be, despite what other people might say, it might be good to other people, or at the very least, schlocky horror B movie stuff that you ironically kind of like. But putting that aside, I think Jim Carrey's Grinch is bottom tier. I think the original animated short is top tier, and second is the Benedict Cumberbatch version, because I think the Benedict Cumberbatch version at least maintain the closeness to the original tale. I think that you know, look wise, it's vibrant colors. It's not a sewage color mess, a cesspool like the Ron Howard version is. Uh, I got a little bit more laughs. Uh, so yeah, and I watched that probably a little bit more times than I thought I would. And I think the marketing, because I mentioned that in my review of the Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch, the marketing of that was brilliant. Because I mentioned how, like, in that review, how, like, there's so many posters I saw. And you can look it up, because there's like a lot of those. Just look up Benedict Cumberbatch Grinch marketing posters or something like that. And you'll see all these variations of these different ways that was marketing. Crap, I want to look it up right now because like I actually want to like make sure I get this right because it was so hilarious and clever. Uh, uh, okay, here you go. One of them says like, "No, I don't want to go to your off-Broadway play." Uh, was another one. Crap. Times Square, where classy meets subtle. Uh, oh, you're trying to make it in Hollywood? Let me know how that goes. Good luck getting those Hamilton tickets. A24 delayed that indie picture you've been aching to see again. You could always, uh, you can always, what was that? Torrent it. I don't know what that is. It's like, whatever. Definitely microwave the turkey. Good luck getting, oh no, I was shirtless before Junior. I don't know what that is. But your date is just here for the popcorn. That was really funny. Congratulations, you just chose the busiest day of the year. Rent is so cheap here. Keep honking, it will make everything go faster. Uh, of course, you'll make it as an actor. I'm sure you'll catch the next one. I could watch you crawl around the what is it? I could watch you crawl down the LIE all day or lie. I don't know. It might be like a LA thing. Uh, no one is thankful for Tofurkey. See, like it's just like things like that. I mean, you can look it up. It's so freaking funny. The marketing of that was so brilliant. You see that on like benches, busway benches or buses on the side, or even like billboards. You see all these little just mean things. Just people just came up with that you think the Grinch would say just to irk you. And I thought, like, because I've seen that on like the highway on those billboards and stuff like that, and I thought I laugh. It's just like what a way to like market it. I thought that was fucking brilliant. Like you get a, I remember like a little something like that with the marketing of this movie with like Jim Carrey's Grinch hand like holding like a ornament and something like that, but nothing that clever. Uh, but anyway, that's my 2 cents on the film. It's like it's not put my feelings for Jim Carrey aside. It's not that good of a film. Uh, I really don't care looking at it from time to time, and the jokes come so few and far in between. And the Who's, I don't like the way they look. It's just, and sometimes the jokes can be cheap. With the dog butt kiss stuff. That's another thing. It's just like I said. It's like it depends on how you feel. It's like, oh, I haven't seen Jim Carrey's Grinch in a while. Let's turn it on. It's harmless. It's not one of the worst films I've ever seen. Uh, and that's why it's like probably like a nice once a year film you can watch. And I think no better time than around the holidays. Just watch it once a year. Uh, get out of your system and don't turn it on again until the next holiday. Uh, but anyway, let me know what you guys think. Have you rewatched Jim Carrey's Grinch recently? Do you feel any different about it? Like, do you still cut some slack, or do you actually like it for more reasons than I provided, or more reasons than anybody else provided? I'm curious. Please let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys in a little bit. So, take care. Happy holidays. And I haven't been doing that, all throughout my Christmas movie reviews.